Hey, this is the episode number 4 of this very young podcast experience where I will dare to call you by your other nature name. What? It's a definition that reminds you that you are in constant movement through infinite space in a very self-sufficient spaceship. What does it hold and what does it generate? Well, for starters, entire ecosystems and everything else one can imagine, or at least a version of that we can imagine. But for sure it's there. In the case of this transportation wonder, it comes with a remarkable onboard super technology, a priceless treasure per se. Technology generated in the original of it all. Origin generated, we could call it. Quality that needs to be mentioned for its inspiring practicality. And probably also one that not necessarily started a long ago, but it's a phenomenon that is happening constantly instead. An everlasting Big Bang, or a gentle but big whatever for a calm and everly so heavily normalized bang. Taking place right here, right always, every day, in every way, in any way, all the way, just to be everything that it can be at this particular moment. Yeah, epic stuff. Certainly, I'm not trying to change nobody's version of the meaning around this or inside this topic, but just sharing. I'm sharing here for the one that can be interested. No more, no less. Anything that you can call truth, if it's not something that you can put to the test, question and re-examine at all times, something that is alive, something that can change, something that can evolve, something that can get better, something that can adapt. If it's not flexible like that, what you call truth is not truth. It's an old book that is just getting older, and it is more of a problem than anything else. So that's kind of like the mood about this podcast and whatever. We're going to use a lot of cliches here, so bear with me, be patient. Semantics are tricky, or just, they do what they can, and I'm doing my best as well. By now, you know that you're dealing with someone who has an accent. Yes, I have one. I'm aware of that. English is my second language, and it's an excellent avenue to reach a more global audience. So I'm doing that in a very pretentious way, but I imagine that if considered as a tool, one that we can enjoy, it will work just fine. And I am very respectful with words. Not because I use respectful words, but because I do have a personal admiration for the language, for any language. The ones that we talk, the ones that we move, the ones that we simply understand, because it is an undeniable evidence of our never-ending potentiality. It's so complex and yet so easy for us. This consideration, or better said, realization, has guided me towards my very own re-examination of our intellect. Again, as an exciting and always enjoyable tool. Words and all that are rechargeable tools. The way you know that is because you do remember maybe not the first thing you did when you arrived to this existence, but you do remember that you didn't know a thing. You can remember that. That's why when we arrive, we know nothing, and then we sort of like start getting the meaning of things through the heavy and very constricted school of the status quo. It's okay. It has to be like that so we have a solid reference. Whether we agree or not, we will have time to develop that portion also that is even more complex as the enrichment of our capacity of knowing things is growing. And the intellect itself is a key element in this game, the game of rearranging existence, reality, or life. And some people don't call it a game. It's okay. Let's just go through this and let's take from this whatever is useful for each one of us, no matter where the information came from. Is it useful? Is it good enough for me to consider it? Even if I don't agree or agree, it doesn't matter. Whatever. If your reaction with me, with this podcast, the subject, topics, or the understanding that I'm suggesting, or even the pace that I'm using, it's something that makes you go like, what do I care? Well, that's it. That's where you are, and that's useful. And it is highly important that you respect whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that you think or makes your understanding easier. You have to be respectful with that consciously. Whatever it is that makes you feel coherent at this moment. Eventually, you will know that that will change, but it will always change, and it will only change if you can know where you are exactly. You have to have your coordinates clear in order to ask for more wisdom. We started learning how to talk and walk. There was no negotiation there. It was just something that was happening because we just felt the propelling motion of the learning process, and we knew that we could do what we do all the time. We learn, we adapt. That's our most important quality, to be flexible. Not to everything, because it is something that will be filtered by our intentions and our set of desires and all that. But it's good to know that we could adapt to everything if we wanted. So that's why we can choose, because our system of understanding knows that. So if you don't feel that this is 100% your thing, but if you have a little bit of curiosity, or maybe you feel like you have something to say about this, or whatever is the percentage of anything that can make you wonder if there is any more in this for you. I don't know if there is anything for you in this. I will give you an advice about that, an advice that you didn't ask, and that's not necessarily always a good idea, but I will do it anyways. Stick around. Stick around. I will let you know right now that I need your company. I need your line of processing this, your style. And eventually I would ask permission to use your personal library. Yep. Now you are probably thinking, how are you going to do that? What do you mean? Well, before I can answer that, I need to clarify that none of this is new. The only new thing here is probably the description of this. And the only reason why it's new is because I am doing it. From my unique point of view. And it's not unique because it is something that I can negotiate and decide if I want it to be super unique or not. It is unique because it is unique. Its uniqueness is a default thing, meaning with zero effort from my part, and it is exactly the same way for every single one of us. And eventually, when we interact, whether we know it or not, there is not only an exchange of words or text or signs that we can do with our hands, but there is also another layer, the one that can connect to each one of us knowledge of things. We will probably not know every single word that the other person knows, but we will have sort of like a particular feeling about possible development of a certain topic or whatever it is that we are exchanging here. Like I said, whether we know it or not, we are in many ways exchanging not only the obvious part of the interaction, but also the way we do things and all that. Okay, so here we are again, and we want to be gentle with semantics here. I was referring to the amazing technology that can be found in planet Earth, what the planet is in itself. I was referring to it as a spaceship because it is, in principle, it is. And we are also a very good example of that. No kidding, each one of us regarding this technology and somehow as a brilliant, amazing mechanism. A biomechanical sentient being, that's what you are. And of course, much more. In principle, it's a portion that includes everything that is. The truth is anything that you can put to the test at all times. Because it is the only way that anything can claim to be efficient, of importance, or relevancy. So, what I have gained so far, I got answers. That's the personal part. Very intelligent answers. Very nice. And needed ones. Yeah, that's what I'm sharing here. My part. Each one of you has a little bit of detailed knowledge of something that you might or might not have a way to express it, but it's there. It's there with you. It's the thing that makes you be you and not anybody else. There is a catch, though, at least in my case. Most of the stuff that I know now requires one thing I did not expect, but at the same time, I do not argue about it. And that thing is whatever I'm doing right now, meaning the sharing bit. No, it is not the result of having a conversation with God, or at least that is not the proper word in my case. It is just the result of following the movement, the way an idea changes, or the idea I could access through the simple fact of extreme desperation and the complete loss of patience for bullshit. So that's why I'm making this podcast. I guess I should clarify also that the disclaimer here is not having any, but for the sake of the experiment, I want you to be sure that I feel more alive when my opinions and theories are questioned, considered, challenged, or explored by intelligent minds. I know you are. It's much better than when I get only a wow reaction followed by silence. Don't get me wrong, some of those wows are tiny big bangs of brilliant debates somewhere down the road. But whatever it is that makes the information move in general is what makes me the happiest. Seriously. Let me share with you one of those answers. Well, I've been doing it anyways, but let me be more clear. One of those important answers that I got from simply just asking in your mind. You know, when you talk, you can listen to you, and you also listen to yourself when you think. You can read it in your mind. You can sing it in your mind. Well, if you ask in your mind and do not try to answer, the question will be answered at a point, somehow, and you will feel that there's no more anxiety about certain things. And that's because something's been answered. And you don't perform the answering portion willingly, it happens through you. Like when you are trying to find a name that you forgot in your head and you say, it will come to me, it will come to me. And then it does. Most times it does, especially when it's necessary. Because when it doesn't, if you really pay attention to the situation, it's not because you couldn't remember, it's because the questioning part of the situation has been answered some other way, okay? So, the bio software will work, meaning the mind being utilized as a personal computer. Well, those answers do work for me in a very intimate way because they're customized, especially for me. However, I think some of this information will illuminate something that will turn into a personal data, personal understanding for yourself. And there will be a common ground, of course, in the crossing over of our exchange. That will be the space that will be benefiting everybody else. The common ground of this does not need to be officially released or consciously exposed. And it happens automatically. Check this out. In the quest of finding out who or what we are, this is what could be one of the answers. Through my experience, I understand that we are a magnetically rich density, something like a critical mass of data, information, ideas, intention, deliverance, desire, things that can be all named or recognized as information. I'm sharing with you here something that is a result none of one particular book or teaching or discipline. No, it is the result of a mix of all that in my personal history of curiosity. We all have one. Curiosity for wisdom, until it was the only thing that I could care for. Because without those answers, life was not something I could bear with at a point. So the people, the lights, the shadows, the shame, the glory, the future, the present, the story, and of course, perception as the core of it all, the center of existence, the most expensive software per se, the one that if missing, nothing else matter. Because, people say we live probably in a virtual generated reality, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Basically, the only thing that really matters here is your perception. If you are in a generated reality, within this reality, you will always have one thing that is going to be real all the time, which is your perception. That's why when you are in a dream, you are in a dream. Your perception is in the dream, is in the logic of that dream. And it is so all encompassing sometimes the logic of the dream that you have no even recollection in any sensorial way of time or anything that belongs to other storylines. If you are in a virtual reality moment, your perception will be there. When you stop being there, your perception will be with you. You are your perception. So it doesn't matter if we open or close different books. What really matters is our perception, because it will change us, it will provoke us, it will trigger different things. There's only one way to stop our perception. And that's probably something that you don't want to fuck around with, because it's not like taking a break. It's more like a permanent vacation. You know what I mean? Forevermore. So what are you? You are a lot of ideas and thoughts that has coagulated after a certain level of accumulation into this you recognize as yourself. And I'm not talking about the quantity of knowledge that you might have since you were born. No. You started as an idea, and then the ideas start getting more and more ideas, because we have found through observation that actually ideas and thought think. That's why they bring other attributes when we consider something they can with company. None of this is other than something to consider, but tell me if it doesn't make a lot of sense. You arrive to finally or simply just happen to experience a form of independence when you came here. And it is the biological presence you have. because it's when you have the capacity of approaching and interacting and even fucking with other bundles of thoughts. They can be very different in essence, you know, meaning I'm going to be very careful using these words. Different vibrationally. They have different vibrational signatures. They can attract certain things. How different is that? Very, a lot more than when we were thinner layers of thoughts. As a person, we have that, but it's not as intense as when we are not encapsulated in our own little meat dimensions. Okay, dimensional speaking, here's the place where we can meet very different versions of that we also are. The contrast will bring more ideas. So that makes sense to think that we were at a point, just a simple idea. We don't need to move more, but we do it since it's not effort required in that particular motion, it just happens. And we ended up here being sort of like an antennae being. We have the qualities of an antenna and self-awareness, among many other details. We are creature, the one thing, and maybe nothing else. But there's a lot of those one things around us. And the antennae portion of this description, I use it because we do send and receive information as living vessels for the movement of energy that inhabits everything that we care for and everything we don't. Basically, the basis of this big deal is life. The thing that you have and the thing that you are. And I'm sure you understand some of this. You also probably recognize that the wonderful biological body is not outside of your creation or outside of what and who you are. It is something that is you, but not all of you. But yes, it's you. However, the biological portion of you tends to be temporal. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a must. Unless, of course, religion is the only way for you to navigate your thinking. And some people say, no, I am not a religious person, but they accept the inability of not being able to change anything. That's a religious thing. But like I said before, there's a conceptual line of thinking that when you are there, you will not be able to see other ones. But you are capable of seeing other stuff. You are capable of changing libraries and consider other things. That's why you are, at least in a very subtle way, as an idea, you do have versions in your knowledge, in your awareness of different possibilities. Then you desire to call it impossible or this and that. But you originally are not talking about the impossibility of something. You're talking about the thing. And then something comes to your mind and tells you, oh, but that's impossible. It would be good if you tell your mind, thank you for adding that, but I wasn't talking about the possibility. I was talking about something else. I was falling in love with an idea. I didn't ask you if it's possible or not. It's possible because I'm thinking about it. So I'm just enjoying that dynamic. It is happening right now in a form of consideration that I'm using. Thank you so much, dear head of mine. I will tell you when we are going to check if this is possible or not. Okay? So again, religion and all that stuff that always remind you what is wrong, what is not wrong, what is true and what is not true, and all of that is what keeps the status quo happening. And that's fine. I'm not against status quo. I'm just detailing you something that you can understand. Things work, okay? They keep the system running, and that is not something that we should eternally be talking about or making a never ending number of statements against this. We could take a little second and check how reality works, memorize the dynamic, bless the lesson, exercise your right to know, and realize maybe the most of reality is a neutral prop. We decide how to call it, if it's good or bad, but in itself, it doesn't say anything. Pretty much the idea that all you can have access to is a rechargeable tool is the same thing. Or sometimes just a well designed routine, like cycles and selective memory, etc. From that point on, you might start enjoying having a little bit of a word in the making process, whatever we're interested in. The way you can take this whole thing, if you are mechanical, psychological, biological, mystical, etc., simply compare your behavioral profile with anything that represent any of those particular elements in your awareness. Okay, for example, biological and mechanical is the fact that you took a shit a certain time ago, or you're about to, followed by other bodily functions. And they are regulated by an intelligence that takes care of the many tasks as a very efficient director of a very complex operative system. So for fuck's sake, you need to understand you are, among other things, an awesome mechanism. You are it. Mechanism, mechanical, machine, God, this, that, words that we learned when we came here, they have the same age for each one of us. Say whatever you want, but all you know about humanity is how old are you? That's how much you know about all this. Okay? And how can you know that? That's the question. So you are it. You are all those things. And on that note, I'm sure you recognize that you are the result of mass production. A very sophisticated one, but mass production nevertheless. This could sound funny, but it is also something that you can prove to yourself right now. Of course, you have to do with the design in an intuitive way, maybe. Your credits are clear, my friend. And your intention, the one without contradiction, is there, suggesting that when the directions are clear, manifestation and creation have nothing else to do but to deliver. How you learn how to walk and to talk, I'm going to repeat that over and over. How every cell in your body gathers to simply follow the sweet feeling of being part of a clear and dynamic enterprise with a talented and very productive leadership. And there's no negotiation needed for that. Just joyful motion. Later in the journey, more points are considered and they are embedded in contradictions. And yes, we can do that. But nothing is a must. Our presence here can evolve and change as soon as it notices a way of improvement. Yes, is there for the taking. And this is no rehearsal, this is existence. So, where are we heading with this? Well, to basically a full clarification of why this podcast is called the way it is. Look at you with your extremities just like the rest, you know? All the qualities of your spacesuit are founded in pretty much every single one of your colleagues, or whatever you call your companion for this journey. We all have the same essential equipment, and we all have experience uniqueness. And your spacesuit is designed in a way that you can interact with the conditions around you. This podcast is named after you, after me, and after every other motherfucker on this planet. This has been the episode number 4 of the soon to be a Pulitzer Prize winner or a NASA favorite or a semi-popular podcast in your local area. But for now, happy to be with you, whomever you are, or wherever you are, and whatever you are. And the name of this is the Astronaut Nature.